101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a fundraising queen for non human causes, no other than Miss Katherine Lacefield. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Catherine, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. So I've been working in the nonprofit space for God knows how long, and I have been mostly dedicated to environmental and animal causes. That's the whole non human causes component. And I basically help organizations by increasing their fundraising capacity, by fundraising strategically and smartly, and just raising more funds to have more impact on the world.
Indeed, Miss Catherine Lacefield, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What's the fundamental human need or deep desire your monthly program is designed to fulfill that makes it inherently inspiring, not just informative?
Well, I think that a lot of people don't realize just how important monthly giving can be. A lot of people don't know that monthly giving shows higher annual returns. It'll also get your people to and your donors to stay for much longer on average and also reduces your fundraising costs. So, by having a strong monthly giving strategy that actually makes people feel like they're part of a community, you're going to be increasing your overall impact on the world and, of course, increasing the funds for your organization. So to have that monthly giving program, it's not just a little switch or a button that you click on. And when you're doing your fundraising page, most people have that. If you go to their fundraising page, there's just the same thing where you pick the amount and then you pick if it's a one time, monthly, or even sometimes it's recurring giving. But that doesn't really explain to people or inspire people to join because you're not building a community around your monthly giving program. So, in the three steps that I usually cover when I'm building a program, is number one, you have to create an actual community and system around your program. So, there's ways to do that. You have to really make sure that you're actually inviting people directly to join as a monthly donor. And you also have to create a great stewardship strategy around your program to make sure that people stay in the long term.
Interesting indeed, Miss Catherine. And how do you move beyond simply delivering monthly content to creating a transformative experience that members actively anticipate and value?
Well, first of all, when you want to build up a community instead of just building up a donor list, you want to make them feel like they're joining something special. So, for example, I have one client that works in Colombia and that is doing spay neuter campaigns for animals. And she has international volunteers that are flying from many different parts of the world to come and help assist on these campaigns. So these volunteers are highly committed to the organization. They're usually paying out of pocket, the plane ticket or some of their travel costs to be able to join this program. These are perfect prospects or potential monthly donors because these people understand the cause, they've lived the impact firsthand, and they're obviously dedicated enough to spend some money. So these would be the best prospects to join the monthly program. But what you have to do is understand who are these people? What is their personality? And make sure that your monthly giving program reflects that personality. So, little anecdote, when I participated in this, one of their campaigns in Cartagena in Colombia. The first day, everyone just arrived. I literally had just stepped off the plane and Ubered directly to the Airbnb. And we were like, okay, what are we going to do today? And we all decided to go get matching tattoos. That was the kind of level of craziness and commitment that these people have. So we all went to this tattoo parlor and we all get matching tattoos that are the same symbol that we put on the animals to represent and to show that they have been spayed and neutered. So it's three little lines, and you can't see, but they're in my ear right now. So this just goes to show the level of dedication and commitment these people have. So, when we're going to be building a monthly giving program with these people in mind, crazy volunteers that are traveling across the world to come participate and getting matching tattoos, you need to have an equivalently kind of crazy sounding monthly giving program. So, we're building right now, it's called the Snip Snip Brigade. So, it's kind of funny, kind of funky, and it also showcases that we're a brigade. So, we're a collection of people that are going out to snip the dogs and to save more lives. So that's kind of what you need to do when you're building up your program, is you need to build an attractive personality around your program that fits your donor personas.
Very well said. Miss Catherine, beautifully, beautifully articulated. In a crowded market, what makes your program feel truly unique and indispensable so people feel they must join, not just could join?
hmm Well, first of all, what I like about monthly giving is that it really fits into the subscription model that is the basis of a lot of our economy right now. So, if we look at how many people, let's say in Canada, on average, every Canadian will have around 8 subscriptions. And I'm not talking about your monthly phone bill and your utilities. These are subscriptions that are optional, usually donations, Netflix, Amazon Prime, a weird app on your phone, whatever it is. People are paying things on a monthly basis. And so, this, by joining a monthly giving program, you're actually going to be tapping into the current economic model that is these monthly recurring fees and monthly recurring plans. People are just used to paying. And so they kind of get used to it, and it just becomes a regular part of their daily lives, which increases the retention over the long term. So you have to have a really strong, inspiring, like, call to actions in the beginning. But then usually if you do a good job, people are more likely to just stay with your program because of the model. But I will say something that I think a lot of people don't do well is the stewardship component. So that kind of goes into the long-term capacity. So even if you build up this amazing program, if you're not building and continuing to build those relationships through time, people will end up dropping off because you're not making them feel like they're part of that community. So, some of the things that I recommend is, first of all, as soon as someone joins your monthly giving program, you need to have an individual touch point. If that's sending in them an individual email, asking them, hey, thank you so much for joining. You just made my day. What's your story? What inspired you to join today? Obviously, if you know the person, if you know why they're volunteer, thanking them for their specific support, it can be really helpful in building that connection of you're a person to us and not just a number or another person on the list. Second of all, you need to have ideally a welcome series if you can. If you are a very small shop, nonprofit, and you want to make sure that people are feeling like they're committed right away, you can set up an automation series that welcomes people to the monthly giving program and shares concrete stories over 6 months if you want, or over 2 months if you want. It really depends, which allows them to have consistent touch points throughout the process, especially in the beginning. A quick hack that I found on platforms like DonorBox, for example, that I use a lot with clients, is a lot of times for monthly giving, there's this automated receipt that will be sent out every month at the date of their donation. In many cases, you can personalize that email every month so that on the date of their donation, these people are getting a new, like, inspiring story directly to their mailbox to kind of celebrate their gift of that month. And by changing it every month, you are individually still sending it to each of these people because it's their receipt, but you're actually changing the story to make it feel like, oh my God, there's growth, there's change, there's impact happening on a monthly basis. So those are just some tools from a stewardship perspective that you can include in your monthly giving program that allows for a long-term buildup, which has huge impacts from a retention perspective and obviously from bringing in more stable revenue for your nonprofit.
How do you architect the community element specifically to fuel inspiration, accountability, and belonging, making at the core reason people to stay?
So there's different ways, and it really depends on your capacity, right? Like, I'm hearing a lot of nonprofits are just like, we don't have the time, we can't do this. So what you can do is you can use external platforms. Like, you can create a Facebook page or Facebook group where people can interact with each other. There are also other programs, like there's one that's really focused on building giving circles, but it would be great for a monthly giving program called the Grapevine. I just had a podcast episode with one of the leaders at the Grapevine, and it really allows for people to get to know who else is a monthly donor, who else is part of the community. And by doing that, you're offering an opportunity for people to go beyond just making a monthly financial gift and actually start connecting with the other people in the community. What you can also do is host special events for your monthly donors. So you can have small recognition events, especially if this is a local or community organization. But you can also send a lot of physical mail. I feel in this day of digital age, the only mail I ever receive is not fun mail. So I'm talking about bills or reminders or spam that we get by the mail. But if you get a handwritten card sent to you by name, and it's by mail, and it's written like in pen, like you can see the little lines that someone wrote out, they're gonna open that little piece of mail, and they're most likely gonna keep that postcard if you do a good job, or they're gonna keep that card, they're gonna put it on their fridge, and that's gonna create this long lasting impact of well-being and a feeling like they're part of a community. So I would say trying to build connections between your monthly donors, if possible, doing recognition events or building an online community where they can talk to each other, and just keeping those personal touch points throughout the process by sending ideally physical mail, or even just picking up the phone and having a conversation with your donors if that's not possible.
Empowering answer, Miss Catherine. Again,
Oh,
very well said.
thank you, thank you.
How do you most effectively communicate the tangible transformation or specific outcomes members achieve month over month beyond just listing features?
Yeah, I think I really believe in the power of storytelling. I think instead of just throwing out numbers of like, we've helped 10 cats, or we've helped clean 6 rivers, whatever it may be, those numbers are great to add on. But what will motivate people is when they hear the stories of impact. And as humans, we are very focused on the direct impact we can have on individuals. So usually when we're talking about stories, sharing stories of impact of a community is great. And in some cases that might be very moving and powerful. But most people will be most impacted by a story of one individual or one family or one dog or cat if you're working in the animal space. So sharing those stories and showcasing how by giving a monthly recurring donation, you're actually allowing us to create more stories, such as the story of John or the story of Felix the cat. That allows people to realize, like, oh, I'm allowing this to happen on a regular basis. There's also in your communications with your members, I really emphasize you should be sharing every single story that you share with every other donor, with your monthly donors, but not necessarily be asking them for money. So let's say if you're in an emergency campaign. I actually have one of my clients right now in Albania, a little animal shelter, that they had to stop taking in more animals because their medical bill at the vet was just too high. And the vet was like, you need to pay this off before we can take in more animals. So this was a bit of an emergency, because what happens if an animal comes in? So what we did is we shared a story with everyone explaining the situation. And of course, people are starting to donate. However, to our monthly donors, we didn't send the same message. We personalized it and said, thanks to you, these kinds of situations don't happen as often. Your continuous support is allowing us to stay afloat. Thank you so much. Did I include a link to the campaign? Yes, but very subtly. I didn't ask them for more money outright. I left them the opportunity. They see the link, they can go click on the campaign and they can donate if they want. But really making sure that you're personalizing your communication to make sure people understand that yes, you're sharing stories of impact on a regular basis, but you're not like over soliciting them. Also, will kind of respect the ongoing commitment they have and build that sense of community even more. So, those are some of the tips that I would say that can really help build that sense of community and share stories, but while also respecting that these people are already donating monthly. Make sure not to over solicit them and make sure that they know that you know that they're giving monthly.
Yes. Successful campaign. What's the most common hesitation potential members have about joining a monthly program, and how do you proactively address it in your messaging?
So I would say this has happened to me. So I was doing street fundraising for many, many years, and then I did phone fundraising. So I was actually having conversations with people as they were considering joining a monthly giving program. If you're mostly doing digital, like email, you're not going to be getting into that thought process because people are just deciding to join or not. But that will also not allow you to know what you can put in your messaging to kind of tweak and change and get people to realize that it's not that big of a deal. I find a lot of people have this idea that it's this huge commitment to give on a monthly basis. And if I do have the opportunity to talk to people, I say, listen, first of all, you're not signing away your life in blood. Like you can always pause and end your monthly giving if ever it's no longer working for you. And you can do so very easily by, in some cases, either calling us or even sometimes with Donor Box, for example, you just go in and you can manage your own account. You can reduce the amount if you want. You can cancel your subscription. You can pause it. There's many options to be able to easily manage your subscription. And what I tell people is, how much money do you think you're spending on average on monthly subscriptions? Most people actually in Canada will say $86 a month. How much are they actually spending? $236 a month on average. Why? Because when things are monthly in small amounts, we don't realize it. It's an extra coffee run. It's an extra little snack that you grabbed at the corner store. We don't realize it because it's not a huge commitment. So that's one of the arguments I often use. Some people talk about like, oh, I'm scared of like it being automatic and then like giving my information. In today's day and age, like everything is being given online. Every time you pass your credit card, you're giving your information. Every time you sign in to any other commerce, we don't question for the most part. Why would it be different for a monthly donation? So there's definitely some of those like fear components around the fact that it's going to be automatic, the fact that it's like a commitment. Those are some of the biggest ones. And I find it's very easy to counter argue that and to just say like we pay everything on a regular basis. And sometimes a story I share, and I've shared this by email as well, is imagine if your boss only paid you sometimes when they felt like it. How could you build up any stability as an individual? That's the exact same thing that a lot of nonprofits are facing as a reality. Our monthly giving program actually allows us to surpass that challenge by having the stable income that we all need to be able to invest in long term projects and be able to actually achieve our goals. So people understand that this is the same situation as their life where they would not be able to survive if you didn't know when your next paycheck would come in. A lot of people tend to be able to understand the situation better, and most people once they join, they realize that it's not actually going to be hugely affecting their budget. It's a lot easier to budget a 15 or $20 a month than a $200 donation once at the end of the year when it's already giving season. You're buying gifts for your entire family. So it tends to, if you're able to not argue, but if you're able to present it in a way that this is actually an advantage to them, then it's a lot easier to convince them or to inspire them to join.
Indeed. Miss Catherine, as a fundraising queen for non human causes, what are your short term and long term goals?
Save the world, of course, and save all the puppies. That's my, I would say, long term goals. But ideally, it would be in the short term. But hey, we'll see. No, but in a realistic way, one of my goals is actually to write a book, which is why I was really excited to be on this podcast because I think that books can have a really transformative impact on people. Because I can't work with every nonprofit out there. I cannot. Like not all of them can afford my services, but it's also I am one person. Even if I build a team, I am not going to be able to reach such a level of scale that I would like to have the impact I think that can have on the world. So, in the medium, short, ideally short, long term, I'd love to write a book explaining the different challenges that non human organizations face because it is a different space. There's a lot of infighting within animal nonprofits and environmental organizations. There's a lot of like this competition between what type of organization you are. I think that needs to stop. But I also think a lot of these organizations are led by people with huge hearts. They have huge passion, but they don't really know how to fundraise. And they're always focusing on the emergencies, emergencies. And people get tired out. You need to know how to build a community of donors that are going to support you, that you don't need to do calls for emergency please and emergency support because you have a strong like base of donors that are supporting you along the way. So to make a long story short, write a book, continue my podcast. It's actually helping a lot of nonprofits on a regular basis, and travel the world to share my knowledge with as many animal nonprofits as possible.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Catherine. I'm looking forward for that book. And please do come over on Book 101 Review and let's talk about it. And what would be your piece of advice for those people who want to be like you?
First of all, learn, learn, learn. I am constantly listening to podcasts that will help push my knowledge even further. Even if I've been in the space for 20 years, you can always learn more. Things are changing on a regular basis. Like you need to be staying up to point of what is the new technology that can help support my mission? Is there any way that I can become more efficient in my processes? Are there any new trends happening in fundraising? Like for example, the monthly giving thing, that's more of a since we've had all these smartphones, that's why it's becoming so much more popular because it's easy. But is your process easy? Are you able to be mobile friendly now? Like you have to really stay on top of what's happening and what are the trends. So learn as much as possible. And number two is focus on relationship building. If you want to be a consultant, you really need to start building up relationships with people. But even if you just want to better fundraise in your nonprofit, focus on how would you like to be approached as a donor? Would you like to be just ignored after you make a donation? Of course not. So treat your donors as if they were your friends, as if they were your family, as if they were part of your community, and it's going to just be so much easier to increase your capacity from there.
Yes, and thank you so much for your advice, Miss Christine or Miss Catherine. And can you please recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Of course. I actually have two that I want to recommend. And because one of them is really from the reason why I focus a lot on collaboration and the interconnection between different causes and just the perspective that we have about animals. And this is a book I read a long time ago. It's called The Dog by the Cradle and the Serpent Beneath, and Other Paradoxes of Human Animal Relationships. So it's a big title. It's by Erica Ritter. Actually, she's a Canadian, so I was really happy about that as well. But what this book talks about is all about our different paradoxes that we have with animals. So it's based on this story about this king who has his trusty greyhound or this trusty hound dog. And he ends up leaving the dog to watch his newborn son in his cradle while he goes hunting. And for some reason in the story they don't really explain where the mother is, but anyways, that's beyond the story. And so as he's going hunting, the servants run and they find him and they say, sir, there's been an accident, you have to come home quick. So he runs home, goes into his son's room, and he sees his baby's cradle is flipped upside down. No baby to be seen. There's blood all over the room, and there's blood on his dog's face. Immediately he kills his dog. A couple seconds later, or minutes later, he flips over the cradle. The baby is safe and sound underneath the cradle that was overturned, and he sees a snake in the corner. The story is that the dog was actually defending the baby and protecting it. And so this story, and like I get shivers every time I tell it because it's so sad that this trusty, loyal animal was just killed because we are so quick often to turn on animals for being animals, and we treat them
Yes.
like animals. But on the other hand, we treat them like family. But we're very quick to shift our relationships with animals as a society. And so Erica really dives into all of these different stories of paradoxes where he trusted his dog enough to leave him with his baby, but didn't trust him enough to investigate the situation for more than a few minutes before making a rash decision. So her book really showcased a lot of the different paradoxes and how we can help change that relationship to build up the human animal bond. And I think that's very important about in fundraising of understanding that a lot of people do have strong relationships with animals, But there is a human component that we sometimes are impulsive and we sometimes have issues. So anyways, from a like cause perspective, that book really, I read it twice, which I very rarely read books more than once. It was a really great story and I really enjoyed it. But from a more practical advice, one of the monthly giving queens that is also a podcast queen that I absolutely love is Dana Snyder. And she recently released her book, The Monthly Giving Mastermind. I have been following Dana for a very long time. And her podcast, her book, and her monthly giving summits, which talk about monthly giving specifically, have honestly changed the way I myself work on monthly giving. So, those are the two books that I would recommend. If you're into animals, you want to kind of question about human behavior, definitely the Erica Ritter book. And on this other hand, if you really want to dive into a concrete, actual plan of action, The Monthly Giving Mastermind by Dana Snyder is an excellent book to get you started.
Miss Catherine, thank you so much for your empowering recommended books. Something else to ponder. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Catherine, looking back, what is the most surprising or intuitive lesson you learn about what truly inspires people to join and stay committed to a monthly program?
Oh God, that's a tough question. I would honestly say people, once they join a program that actually recognizes their impact and that shares stories with them, they will be much more likely to stay. And I'll share an example of Barb. Her name is Barb. So I had an automation set up for one of my clients that they work on democracy. So it actually had nothing to do with animals. And we had this welcome series that really showcased, like, if you want to help us build a stronger democracy in Canada, you can join our monthly giving program that was called Democracy Builders. So once again, it showcases a personality, showcases the kind of person you want to attract. She joined. This was a Friday. I sent her a message as soon as I got the notification, because I get notifications for every new donor, every donation that passes through this organization. And I just sent her a personal message. That's not an automation. She got her receipt. I sent her a message and I said, "Hey, Barb, this was the best way to end my week. I'm really excited to hop into the weekend now that we have one more democracy builder in our community. I'd love to hear like what motivated you to join. Like, if ever you're interested, I'd love to hop on a call with you and just get to know your journey better." This woman immediately replies and she goes, "Thank you so much. Like, I've never had anyone like send me a message when I joined a donation program." And this is a lady in her like 60s or 70s. Like, this is not a young chicken in the sense of she's probably joined a few monthly giving programs and has donated to many organizations. For me to be the first one to reach out personally shows you that people are not personalizing the experience enough. We hopped on a call, I think the next day on a Saturday. I took my Saturday to have a chance to have a conversation with her. We chatted for half an hour. It was absolutely inspiring. And we chat now on a regular basis. So treating people like they're people, not numbers, building conversations are going to build lifelong committed members that are going to also go beyond the donation. They might connect you with people that are relevant. They might become a volunteer. Once you start building an actual community of people around your program, you're going to actually start seeing change and people are going to stay. Because on average, monthly donors will stay 7 to 8 years with your organization. So if you think about every single person that joins, take their monthly gift times 12, times 7 to 8, like that's the investment that they're making in your organization. Treat them like your major donors instead of treating them just like your one time gifts. And you're going to have a really big change.
Miss Katherine Lacefield, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Of course. So I do have a podcast myself. I don't have as many as you, which would be very hard to beat. Mine is called the Just Because Podcast. It can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else where you listen to podcasts. If not, you can always check out my website, which is justbecause.consulting, where you can figure out more about my blog, what I do, and if ever you want to chat with me, I'm very active on LinkedIn as Katherine Lacefield.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Katherine Lacefield because if you support her, more and more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, more and more empowering advocacy itself to come. So, Miss Catherine, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.